Described as an influential and outspoken thinker on the future of leadership by Thinkers 50. Your Inc. magazine column, Future Proof, has over 1 million readers, and your new book, The 3D Leader, which is out on the 24th of June, has been described by the Financial Times as a game changer.
I think there's three things. Number one, they need to think and act like a startup, even if they're a 10,000 person organization. What that means at a practical level is being operationally nimble, purpose-driven and built for speed. Number two is it's about culture. Culture is the new operating system. If you're not obsessed with culture on the inside, and then it's very difficult to leverage these opportunities. And finally, and most importantly, number three, you need to fall in love with your customer. The customer needs to be front and center of your universe.
Really interesting. Obviously, a huge company like William Hill with such a long history. There's some challenges for a big business to make big changes.
It's such an important question. I think one of the biggest challenges for big companies is not changing fast enough. And the paradox is, the more successful you are, the more difficult it is to change.
So there are a few examples of big businesses actually making those big changes. So William Hill could potentially be one of the first to do that kind of thing.
I think a really important strategy is to be day one, not day two. And day one is a mindset. It means inventing, innovating, iterating. It doesn't mean business as usual, and it's about challenging status quo thinking. Most great companies start as day one companies, but then they become day two. Bureaucracy, mediocrity, and also they become very successful, and then they hold on to that success far longer than they should.
And I'm presuming day one thinkers probably go to different places as well, because they get seen as being the people that other companies want, so it's that retention of day one thinkers as well.
It's central to a successful organisation, which is to continually be day one rather than fall into the trap of day two.
Interesting question at the end there about disruptors in a business, and disruptors are often seen, or can be seen as slightly negative, and it's, they're upsetting the apple cart. Day two thinkers think that. That's a conundrum, isn't it, for a big business?
It's a big paradox, but I think take a historical viewpoint. Disruption, the history of humanity is a history of disruption. From fire to money to printing to steam engines. Disruption's always been with us. And what it means in one word is progress. And so actually disruption is not a choice. You need to embrace it and apply it on a daily basis in order to stay ahead of the curve. The challenge now is companies are dying younger. This is shown across all the different indices. And so unless you're disrupting yourself, somebody else will.
You talked about catalytic questioning, which is a great phrase. Tell us about that and about the 10 times idea.
Catalytic questioning is a technique from MIT in the US, and it's a really smart, simple technique for asking questions that you wouldn't normally ask. And so the way it works is that most of the time we try and find answers. With catalytic questioning, you just ask questions about a big problem, and then you pick the 2-3 most insightful questions and take it from there. And so the catalytic questioning is a really great way of disrupting business as usual.
And you talked about the big four, who are, I guess, experts in that and continue to do that. Tell us some examples of some of the big four and what they do to change things and how they've continually changed.
There's three strategies which I think we can all learn from. The first is putting the customer at the heart of everything they do, so being obsessed with the customer and also obsessed with culture. Number two is embracing early trends and weak signals decisively and translating those into new opportunities, products, services, business models. The final strategy is high-speed decision-making, which is a really smart way of moving fast. Rather than wait for 100% certainty, make the decision at 70%.
And one word you used near the end of your piece was courage. I guess it takes a lot, doesn't it? Because it doesn't see courage in the sense of a business courage. There's some big decisions, some big steps we make.
Fear of failure, fear of embarrassment, fear of the unknown. As humans, fear is one of the biggest barriers to change, one of the biggest barriers to innovation. And so courage means, risk, resilience, and action. And the Finnish call it sisu, which means Viking spirit.
What would your message be to the senior leaders that you've been presenting to today from the tech and online team at William Hill? What would your message going forward to them be?
The first message is you can be a leader, a follower, or out of business. And the second message is, and the most important one is, if you don't start disrupting your business, somebody else will.
Look, I believe culture should be a verb. Most cultures happen by accident, not by design. In fact, most cultures are probably two-thirds accidental. In Japanese, there's a term called shoshin. It means not just a set of beliefs, but a set of actions. And I really believe that culture eats strategy for breakfast, culture eats IT for lunch, culture eats HR for supper. To scale a great winning culture, I think you need to give people the psychological safety to bring their whole self to work. And let's ask our listeners, how often do you get to be your authentic self at work? How often do you get to speak up and really be all of you? Because the reality is often cultures mean we have to leave 50% of ourselves outside of the office. So I think the number one practical guidance for our listeners is build the culture that you wish you had, celebrate those moments of culture success in meaningful ways. But also, if you've got a strong culture, people want value and values. People want value and values. Meaning is the new money. So you've really got to incorporate purpose into that culture and measure it as well.
Brilliant. Thank you, Terence. I think we've got time for one more question. I'd like you to just tell us a little bit more about your new book that's due out on the 24th of June. It's called The 3D Lead. So what can we expect from that?
Well, I'm really excited to talk about the launch of this new book briefly. And my belief is that the current leadership model is broken. For example, only 5% of nations are run by women leaders. We have record levels of climate change, record levels of erosion in trust. In fact, I call it truth decay. And so this book is a manifesto, a survival guide for leaders to upgrade their mindset. It's a mindset, it's a tool set, and it's a heart set. And there's some great case studies and stories in there from organizations such as Twitter, Booking.com, WhatsApp, and many others on how to turn disruption into opportunity. So I'm really looking forward to sharing that with my community over the next couple of months.
That's excellent, Terence. Well, I'm looking forward to reading it too. Well, thank you ever so much. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, Angela.
Thank you. And if you want to watch back Terence's interview, then go to the Recovery Summit website and you can watch back Terence's interview, lots of other talks from throughout this conference. And thank you very much, everybody who's joined us this afternoon. And thank you once again, Terence.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Thanks.